The act of following someone back when they follow you, whether that's on your Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter account, has been around for years. This action is typically called the Follow4Follow movement. And I put big brackets around that because it's seen as a movement, but it's not really a movement. Now, hearing this, you might be telling yourself, well, that actually sounds like a great idea. And while that might have been the case a couple years ago, it actually does more harm than you would think today. Now, before we dive into this, I do want to put a brief disclaimer out there that this is in no way, shape, or form supposed to be harmful or hate speech in any kind of way. This is purely supposed to be a video essay type of video, so it is actually different from my other content as well. All the information in this video has been taken from my own opinions, other cosplayers' opinions who would prefer to be anonymous, and also just the web, the internet, Google. Now, with that being said, today's cosplay is Rin Kagamine, aka a Vocaloid. You might be asking yourself, where the heck is my bow? It's literally to the side. I'm just not wearing it because it gave me a huge migraine, so we'll just have to go bowless today. But cosplay aside and warning aside, let's get into the video. So what is Follow4Follow? For those who don't know, Follow4Follow is a movement, I guess you could say, that spread around 2010 around popular platforms at the time such as Instagram and Twitter. Now, amongst the cosplay community, having a big follower count was quite a big deal during then. This would give you opportunities such as brand deals, guest judging at competitions at conventions, and sponsorships, and probably more, to be honest. And so this movement peaked around 2014 to 2018. This could have been due to the rise in popularity of cosplay or also because of the algorithm at the time. Instagram, for instance, was really heavy on pushing accounts and boosting accounts who had huge follower counts. But something that goes hand in hand with that is the fact that this movement died in 2019, or around then at least. With big contenders such as TikTok coming around and algorithms changing because all of the apps are owned by Facebook now or something, I don't know. My point is that all algorithms have changed from favoring accounts with big amounts of followers to engagement. By engagement, I mean likes on your posts, comments on your posts, shares on your posts, as well as just general visibility and visiting on your account. Now, of course, followers were still hugely looked at, but more so by the audience than the actual algorithm of the app. That being said, the Follow4Follow movement is still lingering today. The difference is we now have a bunch of creators, such as myself, and bigger popular creators who are quite against the movement. So the question now is, why is it still around? Well, for instance, new/aspiring cosplayers are trying to grow. They believe that having a high follower count puts them in the spotlight and therefore they look more recognizable and they will have a bigger platform with bigger followers and they'll have a name in the community, if you will. This also comes with the idea that you'll get visibility, brand deals, sponsorships, and everything I've listed beforehand. Although this might not be the case anymore because of the algorithm changes, conventions, for instance, still look at your follower counts as a guide. And by guide, I mean it's just as a quick metric or measurement just to check how legit you are, I guess, but it's not as heavily used as it used to be. When conventions look at guest judges and just guests in general, they will look at you as a person, how you work, the content you create, and more than just, oh, you have a big number, come to my convention. Follow4Follow is also seen as uplifting through the lens of supporting based culture. A lot of cosplayers who are now starting out follow one another in hopes of boosting each other and helping each other out to get, again, a name in the community and be seen because maybe their organic growth is relatively slow, which 100% can be quite frustrating. I know I had an instance where my organic growth just plummeted and it was impossible to get out of that hole, and I'm still kind of in there, but that's a different thing. Small cosplayers who also haven't developed a organic growth strategy or consistent growth strategy also tend to go for that because it's typically the easier route. A lot of quotation marks are being thrown around, please bear with me. Another factor is also the simple feeling of instant gratification. It plays a huge part in this because when you see your numbers grow, when you see yourself going from 20 to 30 to 50 to 60 to 100 to 200 followers, you're like, hey, that's a lot of people, that's 200 people. So naturally, it feels good. So that being said, because the algorithms tend to be a huge contender as to why Follow4Follow is no longer a thing and no longer works and it's just not an amazing tool to use nowadays, there also is the simple factor that you'll end up with ghost followers. And so what are those? Let me explain. Ghost followers or dry followers are typically followers that you have who haven't interacted with you whatsoever. Maybe they'll interact with your post when they first start following you or when you originally say, hey, let's do a Follow4Follow. They'll like your post, they'll comment maybe here and there, but after a week, maybe 2 weeks, if you're lucky, they'll essentially die out and they'll never interact with your posts again but they're still following you. That is called a ghost follower. Now, the reason why this does more harm than good is because when you accumulate a bunch of ghost followers or people who don't interact with your content, you essentially have a bunch of sleeping people in front of you who aren't reacting to what you post. Editing Suzu here, I kind of realized I start rambling a lot about this because I'm unable to make a strong conclusion that just makes sense in one sentence. The reason why ghost followers does more harm than good is because of the algorithm shift. Having ghost followers that don't interact with your account essentially doesn't boost your account because there's no engagement, you just have a big amount of followers. So ghost followers doesn't equal to engagement, and that's why you kind of go nowhere essentially with your account. Hopefully that makes more sense. I know it definitely would be better than me rambling for like 5 minutes, but anyway. Your algorithm boosts content that you interact with the most. So for instance, if I interact with Attack on Titan content, I'm going to receive Attack on Titan content. If I do a follow for follow with a Naruto cosplayer, I don't interact with Naruto cosplays or content in general for that matter. So that cosplayer, I will no longer see their content because I just don't interact with Naruto content. On your homepage, no matter who you follow, they still have content and they still have hashtags that are specific to the content they produce. So the content that you absorb and you intake through different hashtags, through media, whatever, probably won't be what they're producing because you don't have the same goals at the end of the day. Side note, if I look down often, it's because I have my notes in front of me, so I want to make sure I know what I'm doing. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm kind of all over the place, but just bear with me. So, all of the explanation, ghost followers, history, facts aside, it does differ from person to person. Some people truly do interact and go out of their way to check on every single follower that they follow, to interact with them and make sure that everything is okay. It differs from person to person, and because of that, let me explain why I personally, opinionated, don't necessarily like this movement. I personally don't hate it. Okay, I have to admit, I used to be part of this movement. I used to do it a lot. I used to be in support groups that would be like, hey, follow me and I'll follow you, like my post and I'll like your post. And nowadays you have less of a follow for follow and a lot of like for like, share for share, comment for comment. However, follow for follow is still the main one. So as much as I don't hate it because I used to be a contender, I don't love it. As much as this is all online, a lot of people have asked me in person at conventions, hey, give me a follow. And it's so uncomfortable. My personal experiences have never been good. That sucks to say, but that's honestly the reality of the situation. The big question is, why is it uncomfortable, right? Because a lot of people just don't see why. So how can it be avoided? Why does it make you uncomfortable? What are the steps, right? First of all, just don't ask. It simply puts a lot of pressure not only on you, but on the other person to reciprocate and to say, okay, sure. When you're at a convention, there's a lot going on. Whether you're in the artist alley, the main stage, or just walking around, or just taking a break and eating, there's a lot going on. So when someone comes up to you on the spot and tells you, hey, could you follow me really quickly? I really like your content. It kind of puts you in a situation of, whoa, who is this person? If it is someone you have previously spoken to or are typically mutuals or have been mutuals with, and there's personal drama, personal beef, that's a whole other thing. That's no longer follow for follow. Follow for follow strictly goes for people who are looking for reach or looking for ways to grow. Here are some scenarios, right? There's two ways of going about this, and one of them just goes down a deep rabbit hole that you can never escape. So the other option is, yes, I will follow you. You just do a quick follow, you follow each other on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, and that's the end of the conversation. Now, if you don't really want to follow that person and you're just kind of doing it out of courtesy, you can always unfollow them later. But then you might be thinking, why did you follow them in the first place if you don't want to follow them? A lot of it is to just get out of the situation because it's uncomfortable, it's pressure, it's just not great. You just want to get out of the situation. That's what matters. If you say, oh, sure, I'll follow you later, or like, I'll follow you when I get home or something like that, just give me your Instagram and I'll check it out later. If they're feeling confrontational, if they're feeling pushy, they could say, just do it right now. Do it this instance. Like, it'll take 2 seconds, especially if you're just walking around or they catch you at a moment where you're not doing anything. It can get quite uncomfortable. It's just overstimulation and it feels confrontational, which shouldn't be the case because you're just trying to talk to someone. So why does it feel like I'm being cornered in the back of an alley? Like, ugh. Also, just generally, why are you in a rush? You're digging yourself into a hole that is going to be really hard to come out of. Another instance is someone had come up to me long time ago, maybe a year ago, asking me, hey, are we mutuals on Instagram? After we had a lengthy conversation. I said, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Actually, frankly enough, just not sure. And that person quickly responded with, oh, well, could you just check? So automatically that comes off as, again, confrontational and kind of paranoid, because why are you so desperate to see if I follow you? And if I say I don't know, I can always check later. I mean, we had a great conversation. I would love to check if we're mutuals or not. Also, let's just think of it this way. Maybe I have no data, maybe I have no Wi-Fi, because for some reason a lot of convention centers have no Wi-Fi. I'm sorry, but I just can't check. I've had another instance of someone coming up to me saying, I think I follow you, but you don't follow me back. What? Like, is this supposed to be a question? Is it supposed to be a statement? Good observation? Like, how do you reply to that? What am I supposed to say? There's a lot of people who will also just ask you, oh, could you just like give me a quick follow? You know what? I'll give it a shot if I feel like you're friendly, if I feel like you're nice, if I like your vibe, sure. But a lot of the time it comes off very demanding. If this is one of the first things you say to someone when you meet them or when you go up to them, please think of something else to say. Even if you bring this up after having a lengthy conversation or a conversation about your interests or whatever it is, a lot of the time it sounds like you had that conversation and got to know that person purely to get a follow out of them, which comes off as greedy, comes off as ingenuine, and just comes off generally not nice. It's hard to put this in context where it doesn't sound like a big deal, because it can be a big deal, and if it wasn't a big deal, this wouldn't be a video, but it is just a button. Someone will always unfollow you and refollow you later. But generally, I would say person to person, face to face, just don't talk about it. So now let's get into why I personally don't like follow-for-follow. To start off strong and relatively easy, if I follow you for the sake of following you, I will probably never see your content ever again. This kind of goes back to the ghost follower situation I was talking about. Much like a For You page on TikTok, my recommended page is all constructed based on things I have interacted with. Even when I follow big companies such as Doki Doki Cosplay or Meek Costumes, I don't know how to say that. Even when I follow big companies like that, I don't see all of the cosplay posts that they release, which is like at least 5 a day, I would think, because a lot of the costumes they release are just not from my fandom. But when they do release something, for instance, that is Vocaloid or Attack on Titan or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I am the first person to see that, because that is literally my hobby, my interests, my passion. I will be a dead follower to you, so my support will be of no use because I just won't see your content. And as much as I would love to go out of my way to go ahead and like every single post you release, every single time you release, it just won't happen. I think I follow around 300 people, which is a lot. Okay, so it's hard to keep up with 300 different accounts, and I'm pretty sure 100 of them I probably don't even know, or I can't even name. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that sometimes I'm just not a fan of what you post, and that is nothing to do with me attacking you personally. For instance, I majorly do not like MHA. If you like MHA, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. I personally just don't like it. So if I see it on my feed, I will not interact with it because it's just not what I like. So if you're an avid MHA cosplayer, for instance, I'm not gonna follow you. And again, you could be the best cosplayer on the planet. I just probably will not follow you. Now, there is this one instance I've had where someone has asked me, they go, why do you follow this person if you don't like their content? You know, like, huh? That kind of goes against everything you've just said. What? I will follow people because I like who they are. I don't follow a lot of private accounts or accounts that aren't necessarily cosplay on my cosplay account. The reason for that is to keep it clean, to separate my private from my cosplay life, I guess. Hannah Montana situation. I won't necessarily follow someone's private account because it needs to be cosplay orientated for me. That is a personal thing. That is completely me. That's how I function. There's an instance of another cosplayer coming up to me this one time and telling me about a situation that they had where a person approached them at a convention asking them, hey, why don't you follow a bunch of people? You have a really low follower list. What's going on? That's kind of egotistical. And I can't lie, I've also had a similar situation, not to this extent, but I've had a similar one where someone had just nicely asked me, why don't you follow a lot of people? But this person had another cosplayer ask them straight up, why, like, that's kind of egotistical, I think, the fact that you're not following a lot of people. And it was a whole argument online as well. I think it went into a whole question about ego and you as a person if you're nice and whatnot, but that's a whole other thing. And so this is something that I had brought up earlier, right? Just because you have a short number of followers in terms of who you are following, not who follows you, doesn't necessarily mean I'm egotistical. I, for instance, only follow 300 people. Only follow 300 people. Whoa. 300 people is a lot. I only follow 300 people because I have a really hard time keeping up. Straight up, I just have a lot of issues trying to keep up with everyone's content and see everything. And I also like having a small list because I don't like having 1,000 different things pop up and then forget about amazing accounts that I could be following, right? Sometimes it's also a matter of just keeping things neat. I go through my following list and I tend to have a lot of deactivated accounts, or again, ghost followers, or accounts that I just haven't seen their content in forever. And sometimes I just will unfollow them. It's nothing personal. It's nothing wrong with you as a person or what you post. What you post is up to you. Please do not post for other people. Post for yourself, okay? This all being said, it's pretty common knowledge that you just don't follow someone you don't want to follow. You get what I mean? There's always another side to things when you look at whatever. Whether that's a cosplay community, whether that's an anime fandom, whether that's a music group, there's always going to be a dark side, right? Now for the cosplay community, that typically is if you don't follow someone, you hate them, which is very much the opposite. This is just me reiterating myself at the end of the day. Just because someone doesn't follow you doesn't mean they hate you or you did something wrong. Unfollowing someone or not following someone should not be an indicator for I don't like you, because that's not what it means. Anyway, important bits set aside, this topic is relatively important to me personally because I've been a victim, for lack of a better word, of Follow4Follow, because I used to be incredibly, and I can't emphasize this enough, incredibly insecure about my follower count. Much like any starting cosplayer, when you're 13 or 14 and you see big cosplayers and you think, wow, they have 1 million followers, I want to be like that. Numbers are going to get to your head. Even when you have already big numbers, or you already have an established account, you are going to have moments, whether they're occasional or rare, there will be moments where you'll think, man, I'm going nowhere right now because what is wrong with my account and my followers right now? What's going on? You can't afford to think that way because your followers don't really say much. You could have the craziest viral reel and a lot of people will remember you just for that reel and not necessarily because of your account, and they probably won't follow you. At that time, I had personally entered so many support groups specifically to Follow4Follow, likes for likes, comments for comments, and that became a sort of routine. I would get so many messages in that group chat and I would have to follow that person or like their posts, make sure to engage. And sure, at the time it was great. I had found a lot of amazing cosplayers and I truly liked their content, but a lot of those cosplayers were not necessarily cosplaying a lot, which again isn't a bad thing whatsoever, but because a lot of those people don't cosplay a lot, they wouldn't post often and I would forget about that, and then I would be asking myself, why am I following this person? Like, when's the last time they posted? You know what I mean? So personal things can come in the way. You know, everybody has a life at the end of the day. You're doing other things than cosplaying every single day, so it's normal. It's completely normal. But because I was in those groups, eventually I just kind of told myself there's no meaning behind this. You know, everyone's following each other because you're boosting each other and it's cute. It's nice to have that community. It's nice to have that support chain going. But truly at the end of the day, you're not building a connection with them. You're not talking to them. You're not indulging in your interests. You're just liking their posts and making sure they get boosted a little bit more than they would if they didn't have your like. But where is the genuinity? Where is the actual connection between human to human? Being insecure about numbers is always something that will be a top contender when you're trying to grow as a cosplayer, which no doubt will be hard, will be difficult to face and to ignore, because that is the first thing that was kind of put out on the internet for people to grow and to have recognition, right? So it's always something that I think will be embedded regardless of where you are, who you are, and what you're doing. I think at the end of the day, it's great to support people and give, you know, a helping hand, but it should do more good than harm. There's plenty of ways of supporting a cosplayer, whether that's engaging with their content, reaching out to them physically, sending them a message, meeting them at a convention, going to meet and greets, whatever it is, there's so many ways of doing it. So please don't rely on your follower count just to be like, let me follow this person, let me support them. It is support. It definitely is support. But engaging with their content is even better. I can't cover every single aspect naturally because there's just so much to be spoken about and there's too much to speak about. I try to cover what I believe is most important, but if I missed out on anything, please comment down below or reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to hear your opinions. I would love to hear your thoughts, your personal experiences as well. Everybody has their personal experience with this, so go for it. Put it in the comments. Say what you want to say. Speak your truth. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm back finally. I don't know how much content I have to pump out, but we'll see. Hopefully I can do a video weekly. That would be my absolute and utmost goal. Speaking of the comment section, tell me what else I should talk about, because I kind of like this video essay thing format, you know? Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys have a lovely day. And with that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.